lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on and they get
He missed the complete. That is crazy stuff.
Side Freitas is on the grass on the infield floor. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck.
As modern racetracks are built, things like clear sight lines and plenty of runoff area greatly concern the designers. They look to give fans the best bang for their buck and to keep drivers and their cars safe and whole. As soon as you set foot in Imola, though, it becomes clear this was not a track built in the modern era. Narrow, tree-lined, and dangerously punishing, this classic circuit is a challenge no matter which car you take around its winding hillsides. Throw multi-class racing into the mix, and you've got a recipe for tension. Who will manage to come out the other side unscathed? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch the penultimate round of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sportscar Challenge. And you'll see it all live on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth covering the Prototype and GT1 classes is Bill Soupzon. Next to him, helping us follow the GT3 class, is Michael Smitty Smith. Behind the scenes is our director Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Smitty, this place certainly seems adept at forcing errors out of even the best drivers. What makes this track so tough to drive?
Well, Joe, originally known for its blinding speed and sometimes accompanying danger, modern adjustments to this circuit's layout have taken away some of that flat-out nature, but have not diminished any of its difficulty. Where once there was a full-throttle blast from the final complex at Vervace to the tight corner of Tosa, now can be found a pair of left-right sweeping corners named Tamburello and Villeneuve. Even with these revisions, the track flows quite nicely, but it isn't terribly wide, and there's not much room to be found if you do go off. Throw in the fact that we'll be watching 3 different classes of cars on course at the same time tonight, and the track may be the least of the driver's worries. But to see just exactly what I'm talking about, let's jump on board the GSRC GT1 Corvette for tonight's lap guide.
Alright, we've got Amjad Yaman in the GSRC Corvette, so let's do a lap around Imola. Across the start-finish line, you'll just straighten out the track as it weaves back and forth. Just be careful as you line up to the right, because there's a little kink in the braking zone that makes it easy to dip a wheel into the grass. Now, the Tamburello chicane has 3 apexes, but you want to hold tight on the first 2 to give yourself a wider entry into the third. Watch out for the sausage curbs as well, because they can badly upset the car. From there, hold right and spot your brake marker for Villeneuve. The first apex is much faster, which makes setting up for the second one pretty tricky. With it tightening up, it won't be uncommon to see cars go wide into the kitty litter. After that, it's a short burst to Tosa. Throttle control around this hairpin will be a very valuable skill indeed, because a good launch up the hill will be super important to keep yourself safe from attack. Anyone greedy enough to induce wheel spin is going to be losing time hand over fist. Hold right over the blind crest, and then get on the brakes for Piratella. The paved runoff to the outside will save the car, but it will cost you in lap time. Then it's a quick run to Aqua Minerale. Just like Villeneuve, the first part of this double apexer is used to slow your car down and line it upright. The second apex is inviting to overdrive, but go too wide and you'll get a slowdown penalty. That's going to hurt especially bad with another uphill climb that leads into a heavy braking zone. The Alta chicane is extremely tight and fiddly, so I wouldn't recommend trying to stay too wide. The tall curbs are punishing, and clobbering them too hard can send you flying off track. From there, the circuit weaves once more as it comes back downhill for the final time of the lap. Hold to the right and get the car straightened out for the braking into Ravazza. Coming in here too hot is easy with the dropping elevation on entry, but the exit is the critical part of this 2-part corner because it brings you back onto the main straight. The braking for Tamburello is probably your best chance for an overtake, so you don't want to slow exit out of that last turn. But as we come to the line, we've now finished a lap around Imola. Certainly a very technical course that these drivers are going to be tackling today. And of course, the most technical of our team when it comes to the championship stats and numbers is Bill Soupzon, here to give us the update with only this round and 1 more to go.
That's right, Joe. At this part of the season, it's time to sit back, loosen the belt a couple notches, and make room for dessert, the 13th course on this 14-course meal that is the 2016 Autobahn schedule. Let's start with a sip of Java here from the Prototype Championship Cup. Now, when you take into account Robert Tinsley's drop insurance, the Talon Motorsports driver will have a final total of no less than 405 points. That's enough to give Bob the Blade the championship, as the mark will be out of reach of the runner-up driver Jason Gerard of Excelsior Racing Team. Having to miss a second race in a row to recover from biceps surgery, John Ulmer of Autobahn Motorsports West slips down another spot into fourth. Making room for the third spot is Flying Snail Racing Kevin Santana. Mean Beaver Racing Mark Wilson is only 13 markers back of Ulmer for fourth, and unless Big Cheese can recover ahead of schedule, Wilson should be able to vulture fourth place before everyone says goodnight. If the prototype class tasted like a sip of instant black coffee, the GT1 is as sweet as a piece of homemade pecan pie. TMC Carbon Steve McGarvey leads the class in wins with 5. Brandon Postma only has 2 wins, but consistency has the Talon Motorsports driver just 5 back of the lead. Chase Hudson excused himself from the table before the meal was over, having missed the last 2 races. The Mama Jean driver is out of the drop insurance now and has fallen out of the championship as well. Still looking for his first win of the season is Billy Smith II, who sits in fourth. Just 3 points ahead of the Autobahn West driver is Excelsior Paul Lindsay. Now, shake it up all you like, but the store-bought can of whipped cream that is the GT3 class is spitting only air. John Paquin has enough drop insurance to guarantee that the P1 racing driver scores 399 points. Now, Paul Darling could reach that number, but Oh My will need to win out, and the Pac-Man will have to falter to the max. The final podium spot is still in question. Jim McGinnis of Talon and Dave Hill of TMC Carbon they're only separated by 6 points. Hill has a slight advantage in the pocket points, 16-10. Patrick Fleming is searching the refrigerator door for another can of whipped cream, 21 points behind third and 19 out of fourth. The Excelsior Racing driver is hoping to find a miracle somewhere hidden on the shelves. But what everyone wants at the end of the Thanksgiving feast is a good old piece of pumpkin pie, so here is a slice of the team championship. Tinsley, Postma, and McGinnis were the perfect ingredients to put Talon Motorsports on top. Add in Mark Wilson's 8th place contribution in the prototypes with McGarvey and Hill, and that's enough to put TMC Carbon in second. But closing fast is Excelsior Racing, outscoring TMC by 16 points last round. Gerard, Lindsay, and Fleming are just a single point out of second. Chance Kelly and David Sockrider have contributed enough to put the Pac-Man-led P1 Racing in fourth. And after falling off the overlay, Mean Beaver Racing makes its return thanks to Mark Schindel, Robert Jackson, and Mark Wilson's combined 34 points effort last round compared to Autobahn's West anemic 9-point performance. Joe, after this round, the only thing left on the menu is the Pepto-Bismol that is Le Mans.
Well, that should hopefully smooth things out with nice long straights for them to have to deal with that interclass traffic there compared to here, which is quite cramped. And, speaking of that seems like it's a topic that's heavy on the minds of the drivers, Smitty. There was a lot of talk after the Nürburgring about interclass etiquette.
Yeah, certainly it was. I mean, I think what happens is when you get some of these tracks, like we were just at with Nürburgring, where it's not exactly wide open spaces, and you've got fairly big differences in pace from some of the guys, especially when we're talking about prototypes to GT3s. And everybody has their right to the space, and you don't have to move over and roll over and dive for these guys. But at the same time, these prototypes they're coming through, and sometimes it's a little bit of a difference of opinion on who has right of way. And I think we did see some I don't want to say tempered flair, but difference of opinion certainly. Today, it's a similar kind of course. It's not super wide. It doesn't have really super easy passing zones, and I think we could see a little bit more of what we saw at Nürburgring.
I wouldn't doubt it. Now, Bill, one thing that we saw that surprised us a bit, not too much because we knew of his speed, having had him race on the GSRC before, Daniel Benefield won on his first race out and in the prototypes. That's no mean feat with the talent that we continue to see influx into that class. Do you think he can repeat today?
Yeah, and it wasn't a gift either. He beat Tinsey and Gerard. They were all there. He beat the big guys. The only one missing, of course, was Ulmer, who was recovering. Right now, it looks like he has the pace to do it. We'll keep an eye on it. It's nice to see any competition that they give to Bob the Blade out there, who's really been crushing the field. But yeah, he shows up, gets his first win. Of course, it could be what my dad always says, beginner luck. We'll see what the sophomore jinx has in store for him today.
Yeah, he did have a little bit of help in some of the top guys seeing mistakes made in their driving or mistakes among that interclass traffic. Guys around them spinning or doing moves that they didn't expect, causing damage that I think gave him an opportunity. But, you know, Daniel certainly took that with both hands and didn't look back. And he was under pressure to the extreme in those final 2 laps, and he withstood it with grace. Right now, he's sitting second on the grid, so he's put himself in a good position to try and do it again. Let's hope that he can come back next season and be able to challenge Tinsey throughout. Go ahead, Bill.
Just to follow up on that, you know, in Benefit's defense, he would say, well, I was out there with the same pressure that everyone else had. I didn't crack under it. And we can carry that down if we go into the GT1s. Here's a guy with speed every week sitting on the pole right now in that class is David Williams, but he's yet to be able to transfer that to translate that into a win. Always competitive, but something always seems to happen to him, sitting up there right now ahead of McGarvey and Costa and Postma in that GT1 class.
And Williams was lamenting after last round. He apparently, we mentioned that he was starting from the back and working his way through the field. That's because he didn't have any practice at the track. I think he said he had about 2 laps before he came into the session, the qualifying session even. So for him to come through the field and finish on the podium, he said, you know, this is the first time he hadn't had anybody run into him or make any major mistakes on his own. So imagine what he could have done if he had actually bothered to practice for that one. So here's hoping maybe with him starting on the pole, maybe he can finally get that elusive win. He certainly is a strong driver. Stephen McGarvey is going to try and deny him that with him having a championship on the line. Looking at the GT3s, hasn't been as exciting, but certainly has closed up in these final rounds. I think that all the work that Paquin has done early on in the season, Smitty, is what given him the ability to lay back as much as he can.
Well, for sure, lay back he can, but lay back he won't. I mean, that's the one thing about old Pac-Man. We know he's going to be out of the gate hot and heavy and make things happen for the W. He doesn't give them away. They got to be taken from him. We actually saw an extremely rare mistake from him at the last round, trying to go for those W's, trying to get it up to the sharp end, and just didn't work out for him. But as you say, he really has made things happen in that class and been the guy to beat. Last year's champ, Darling, he's best of the rest right now, and while he's just to the outside of making something happen this year, it's still a valiant effort considering what we've seen from Pac-Man all season.
And here's one familiar for you, Smitty. Bradley Haley. He showed up at the ring, too, if I'm remembering correctly. He made waves in the Pac Majors, and he's certainly showing he's got some speed. Wondering what he can do to shake things up here.
No, absolutely. Haley came out of the box hot, and I'll tell you what, he's going to be one to watch in this series if he continues on next season. And I know he's signed up for the Pac Majors next year, much to my dismay. But no, for sure, he's a phenomenal talent, young guy, and be cool to see what he does.
Now, Bill, the other driver we were seeing on screen a lot here that it doesn't show up as much around here, but definitely shows up on the GSRC, Jimbo Pfeiffer. It's a name I guess our viewers who might not be familiar with Jimbo think, well, that's a guy that should be in NASCAR, right? Well, no, this is a road course guy, and he knows his stuff, seeing him out here in this HPD.
Yeah, and that's nice to see that filling up a little bit there. Jimbo sitting 6th in points right now. We know him from, as Joe said, the U.S. Pacific Major. Is that where we see a lot of him, Joe? Yeah. And always competitive there. Of course, that series runs about every car that there is. So Jimbo has experience in almost anything if you run up there in that. But currently sitting at 6th, good to see him there. And yeah, he is a road course. He's a road course guy. Don't be fooled by that first name.
Running that beautiful DHL livery. I like that paint scheme on that car. We are almost done with qualifying, so let's go through our order as the drivers wrap up their hot laps. The top of the field shouldn't really change as we go through this. Robert Tinsey is going to be on the pole, then Daniel Benefield will be starting on the outside of row 1, trying to get 2 for 2. Alex Simonik, he keeps saying he's coming for these top guys, and he keeps proving it. He's starting in 3rd. I don't doubt that he's going to be putting the pressure on. However, he ruffled some feathers at the Nürburgring. Let's see if he can keep it clean here. Jason Girard, not looking as hot lately, but starting 4th. He has had a win this season, though, so he's got that duck off of his back. Pressure is off there. Kevin Santana is going to be starting in 5th, followed by Pfeiffer with the 6th position. He could still improve his time. He's on his final lap. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, though. Mark Schindel will be starting in 7th, with Sheldon Rosenbaum starting in 8th. P9 will be Mark Wilson, followed by Lionel Duprat in 10th. And then rounding out our prototype field in 11th, Bill, is going to be Mark Kudrowski.
And then we'll go to the GT1 class. We'll bring those up right there. You can see we roll over to the next graphic. It's going to be in 11th or 12th spot overall, but first in class, that's going to be, we talked about it, David Williams going to be having that spot. Then next to him is going to be Stephen McGarvey and Leoro Costa. Remember, McGarvey and Costa both have wins. So does Brandon Postma, who's behind those guys. Paul Lindsay and Leif Peterson are the next two on your chart. Then rounding out the GT1s is going to be David Sockrider, Christopher Sherburne in 19th overall. Keep in mind that most of those guys out there, looks like it's the Aston Martin, only one vet, and that's McGarvey. So, Smitty, what do you got down there in GT3s?
And in the 20th spot, you see him there rounding out the top 20, but first in class. He needs to be perfect to have a shot at the championship. Needs to be perfect. It needs bad things to happen to Pac-Man. Well, he started off on the right foot with a pole. Pole in class there for Paul Darling, 20th overall. Next row is going to be the aforementioned point leader, John Paquin. He's going to be in the 21st spot. He's got Patrick Fleming alongside him. The Bradley Haley, we talked about him in the intro there. He's 23rd. Dave Hill, 24th. Jim McInnes, 25th. Robert Jackman's in the 26th spot. Robert Sklenka is in 27th. Sheldon Woloshin is 28th. And the last driver to take time here in qualifying. Rounding out the few guys we have left, we have Darren Leslie, a prototype driver, in 29th. David Henry in 30th, another GT3 driver. Again, both these guys not taking time. And then we also have no time for these guys. It looks like Matt Quinn and Brett Trozine. Quinn in a prototype and Trozine in a GT3. That should do it for the field, Joe.
Not the largest field we've seen, but still a decent field, averaging about 10 cars per class. And we should note, part of the reason that Paul had to get that pole was that offers him a bonus point. That is going to help him there. He can get 2 bonus points, 1 for pole and 1 for having 0 incidents during the race, which is going to be a tough ask in a chicane-ridden track like this one.
Certainly a tough ask, as you say, with the chicanes, etc. Tough ask with how skinny it is. It's not going to be very hard for him to make contact with somebody or someone to make contact with him.
Well, let's hope that's not what the incident comes from, that maybe he just clips a corner a little bit wrong instead of coming into another car. Drivers are now gridding up, and then we have half a pace lap around Imola before we go racing for 60 minutes here in the penultimate round of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge. There we see the GT3 field lined up, and they do split the field, so these guys will be able to separate a little bit before they have to trip over one another. And as quick as this lap is for these HPDs, I wouldn't doubt that they'll be on top of these GT3s soon.
Smitty, just like I have one Corvette in a sea of Aston Martins, you kind of have the same situation going down there with Paul Darling kind of all alone in his vehicle, isn't he?
Yeah, and that's actually been the story for him most of the season. He's been trying to make things happen. I'll tell you what, as our director's pointing out right now, I see a gaping hole in the prototype grid as we are rolling off. I believe that's P3 we are missing right now, if I can get a confirmation from you guys.
That's correct. That should be 3rd position.
That would be Simonik, if that is indeed the case.
No,
Oh, no, it's 4th position.
Girard, then.
Simonik, yeah, it's no Girard and maybe no Santana. Oh, Santana's there. Yeah, we missed Jason Girard in P4.
Didn't Girard have this problem as well at the Nürburgring, I want to say? That he had some connection issues. There was one driver that had to exit out right at the start. I might be remembering incorrectly. However, we are getting ready to take the green as the pace car has peeled in. It's going to be Tinsey with control, and he takes off immediately. This puts Daniel Benefield under threat with Alex Simonek coming up the inside. He could take second place away. He gets shoved off track, has to lift, comes back on behind him. We got 3 wide, and the prototypes start to sort themselves out. It looks like that is Jimbo Pfeiffer looking around the outside up into Tamburello, but can't quite get it done. Let's go back to the GT1s.
In contrast to what you have, we're very much organized down here. David Williams out in front. McGarvey drops in second place. Postma rounds out in third, and then Costa takes fourth. Everything running nicely, single file as they work through that first chicane. Smitty?
Well, it's back to the same as the prototypes. I got 3 wide here for a moment. Backing out is Bradley. Hey, I got contact. No! We're spinning around. I believe that's Fleming.
More cars off.
Paquin is in it.
Your point leader, Pac-Man, he's in it. Fleming is in. We still got drivers trying to get through. That is exactly what Pac-Man did not want to happen. They were 3 wide for a second there. I don't think Fleming knew he was that close or that they were 3 wide. Maybe we can see it one more time from above.
Let's look at one more here, and I think that was a bit of a problem from the front stretch, which isn't totally straight. You can see with both cars kind of weaving across, sometimes you have a little bit of contact, and that set off that chain reaction that could have taken out more cars, but thankfully a lot of guys had a heads up.
There was another driver coming through there, the blue and black machine. I did not see
that was McInnes, I believe.
Was it McInnes getting collected? And he was actually the one who got into Pac-Man and getting him around. So that's exactly what Darling needed. The unfortunate side of John, but let's keep an eye on this thing and see how far down the order of John goes.
And just to follow up, I think Pac-Man couldn't drift all the way out to the left because he was worried that Bradley Haley was there. So, yeah, it was just kind of everyone trying to be careful, and then they got together.
Absolutely, as you say, he was watching out for Haley. Well, it's gone well for Haley. Him backing out, he's now second. Darling, the lone Audi here at the sharp end, leading away from Bradley Haley here to start out things in GT3.
Joe, you talked about it. It's what Darling needed if he was going to steal this championship. That's the mistake.
You can never tell what is going to happen in racing, so you got to plug on. There you can see Haley now scored up into second. He was showing fourth, but that's because we had 2 cars in the pits. It has now corrected itself. Darling's not going to have it easy with Haley trying to run him down. Haley is not worried about any sort of championship. He is just here for the W's for the remainder of this season.
Look at the gap they have back to third, though. 4.5 seconds.
Woo.
Back to Jackman. This is a 2-man race at the sharp end, but Jackman with a little bit of a breathing room behind him and a bit of a hornet's nest going on there for third. Move for the spot. Looks like that might have been Hill trying to make things happen.
Absolutely. Just overtook Robert Sklanka down into the Villeneuve chicane. Cleanly by now as they work their way up through Tosa. Could be an opportunity for Sklanka to get back at him, but doesn't get the traction out of the corner.
That was one of the most exciting starts we've had all season.
Yeah. In both classes, drama's happening before they hit even the first corner. And speaking of which, let's look at the gap between second and third, because Benefield put the squeeze on Simonek, and he is currently about 3 seconds back from second place. He's got Pfeiffer behind him, but not close enough to really threaten. Still, I'm sure Simonek would like to be a lot closer. Traffic may help him close that gap a little bit farther on.
But Benefield keeping pace with Tinsey. So those 2 guys look to be the class of the field right now.
Hey guys, and just a quick update on that prototype program we were talking about. Gerard not being on site during the start. Well, I still don't see him on course. Gerard has not taken a green yet.
I'm guessing it's some sort of technical issue, or could potentially be real life pulling him away from driving. I can't see him putting that good of a qualifying in and then backing out as we ride on board with our second place driver Benefield. As Bill said, absolutely hounding our leader Tinsey.
This will be interesting to see now. They're out there, they can run mano-a-mano on each other. See who has the best of it. Follow up that also Matt Quinn, we mentioned about him not putting in a qualifying time. He also didn't start in the prototypes. Both Gerard and Quinn not going to get points today.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, last round, wasn't it Benefield who actually was the benefactor on damage to Tinsey? And now Tinsey and him both being good cars, it is certainly a mano-a-mano fight now.
You're correct, yeah. Tinsey got a little bit of damage with another class car contacting him, I believe. And he had to go in and take repairs. I think he got it very lucky and had it happen right when he was going to take his regular pit stop. Still, damage was done. Now let's go to David Williams, our leader in the GT1. Ironically, this is the only class that had a smooth and boring start.
Yeah, well,
Yet
it's
it's
nice
our
to have.
closest battle in the championship. Go ahead, Bill.
Probably, I think, Joe, you made a good point to have Williams out in front. That's probably the best thing because he is certainly an aggressive driver and fast and knows his way through a crowd. So, yeah, he's pulling away right now. He's got about a 1.5 second lead over McGarvey, and McGarvey is also distancing himself from Laura Costa. What's interesting about this class, not only is it the most exciting, but we have winners all around. McGarvey, Costa, Postma, and Hudson is not here today. That's 4 off the top of my head that have victories.
Sounds like the prototypes are starting to come up on lap traffic. We always like to follow this. Let's go to our leader, Tinsey, as he comes up on Sklenka, squeaks on by.
Tense moments there for Benefield, though. He did not get the as smooth a run. A little bit more of a gap up before the next guys, but that's one dropping in the bucket there for the GT3s going down the lap.
Did something happen to Sklenka? Because remember, he was up to hill. Oh, he had a spin, we're hearing. So something we had missed earlier on in the race, Sklenka having dramas, dropping him back after earlier sitting in a podium position. But yeah, you know, the one thing I noticed about Benefield there, Smitty, is that he actually was all the way up to the edge of the track and then made that GT3 car get on the curb. That's a little bit brave, I think.
Well, it's still early days for him in this series. I believe this is only his second run now, so maybe he's still working things out. Maybe the aggressive style is working for him, but some of these other guys he doesn't know too well. At the end of the day, if you don't know who you're racing, you don't know exactly how to race them. When in doubt, go aggressive and see what happens.
Is that the rule of thumb? When in doubt, go aggressive?
You know, actually, I had this conversation with Paul Slavonic once about either taking it easy and just try to ride along, or controlling your own destiny. And I think that if you are aggressive, you don't have to hit people and stuff like that, but making stuff happen sometimes works better for you.
And Jim McInnes is off. Our leaders just went by him as he was off track. What happened here? Oh, it looks like he blew the chicane into Alta.
Well, remember, guys, he's trying to come back from that start where he had that contact. He's actually a lap down with these guys.
Speaking of aggressive, just a little bit too aggressive on the brakes into that corner. Had to abandon it. Bounced across the grass. No drama. Just kept it going. Meanwhile, battle for P1 down the inside into Tamburello. Daniel Benefield makes the pass. I'm thinking it looks like traffic may have played a part in this.
Yep, that was Sheldon Woloshin that they went around.
And Brett Trocine is who caused the checkup for Tinsey. He got a bad exit coming out of Ravazza, and that allowed Benefield the run.
Also, while we were talking, Sheldon Rosenblum had put the car, his prototype, in the wall. He damaged it pretty good. I think he's still out there. He was running 6th at the time.
Boy, you guys were talking about aggressive. Benefield didn't need inviting twice, and he made the move, but he made it stick. It looked very clean to me.
Well, hey, think about who he's racing, though. The guy's name is Bob the Blade. Maybe it's a better idea for the hot knife to be Benefield and not Tinsey. Be curious to see what Tinsey does to reply.
Tinsey's a pretty wily character. I think he's going to wait for an opportunity similar to what Daniel did. Get the traffic in his favor and then make it go at him much the same way. They're going to get it here soon with Dave Hill coming up next. However, they're going to pass him on the straight. Up next in line, it's Robert Jackman.
This place is going to be a stark contrast to their season finale at Le Mans. This also being pretty windy and whatnot, not having the long straights at Le Mans will, but also the distance of the race. This one's only 60 minutes. The finale will be much longer.
Looks like Bob the Blade is not getting the benefit of the traffic here. As we rode on board, we saw that Dave Hill was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Dave didn't do anything wrong, but certainly held up Tinsey. Now they're coming up to Jackman. Benefield's able to get him before Tosa. And coming off the exit, it looks like it's going to be a clean pass for Tinsey. Whoa! Problems for Jackman, and he's into the wall. A little bit too much gas out of the corner, it looked like.
That was at a P3 for Jackman, I believe, in class. He's going to fall one down, I believe, the hill.
Well, Dave Hill is looking pretty nice just by staying on the track today. He's got the leader, or no, third place Simonik trying to come around him. There's a bit of chatter on the radio I didn't quite hear. I'm not sure if you guys caught it. I saw that Paquin was involved in that. I'm not sure if he was commenting on anything that happened. Oh, look at this. Tinsey right back up on top of Benefield. Here we go.
Coming up on Bradley Haley. Haley's going to do a good job of pulling over. A little bit of lift here. I think both drivers are going to get by him.
Should be an easy pass. This won't interfere with the battle. Boy, the accordion effect having a big problem for Tinsey as he was right up close into Ravazza. And it takes him all the way to Tamburello to try and catch back up into the braking. Up next is our GT3 leader.
Yes, Smitty, that's what was so surprising to me. We're 13 minutes into the race, and the prototypes have already made their way through the GT3 guys. They got to him like after about 2 or 3 laps.
Well, she's not a very long course, you know. She's pretty quick and flowy, and especially with the way the start was for the GT3, that did not help their cause at all for trying to have a gap on the leaders.
Yeah, I'm sure that ate into their opening lap time quite significantly. Meanwhile, we've got Tinsey continuing to try to eat into the lap times of Benefield down through Aqua Minerale, single file through here, up the hill, and up to Alta. This can be a passing opportunity sometimes. You have to kind of make a bit of a wild dive and pray that you don't have to go through it too wide, but these guys stay single file, can't go too wide on the exit, and then it's back down the hill into Ravazza. Oh my goodness, look at Tinsey close, locked him up on the inside left.
I was just thinking as that happened, I remember at Nürburgring, Benefield talked about maybe not having the right setup, having the high downforce setup and actually lacking a little bit on the top end or having some issues there. I wonder if maybe there is just, maybe not a setup difference, but certainly a braking difference or a driving style difference between these two guys who basically have no experience racing each other.
And I was, hold on, Bill, I think Benefield's getting into the head of Tinsey a bit because Tinsey got on the radio asking why he brake checked him, and Daniel said, I didn't.
That's an argument I'll have with people all day, that brake checking happening at this kind of juncture. I don't know, at the end of the day, I think you just need to figure out where the other guy's braking when you're the trailing driver.
I agree completely. Go ahead, Bill.
Well, I think you have two drivers that are kind of have opposite philosophies of racing, but it's really the same philosophy. You have Daniel Benefield, who's just racing for fun. He's not in the points chase at all, so he's out there looking just to win. And then you have Robert Tinsey, who has locked up the points chase, so the points don't matter to him either. So you have two guys out there just racing for pride right now, and sometimes maybe that can be the formula for disaster.
Well, these guys have spread apart just a little bit more, so while we get a chance, just want to remind everyone that the other classes are actually having a race, so they're not just out there for nothing. Let's go and check on what they look like. Stephen McGarvey still not able to make any inroads on Williams. 2.4 back, almost 2.5 seconds. And then he's got a good gap back to Costa as well. So Williams right now, I don't want to curse the guy, but is looking good, but there's a lot of race to go and a lot that could happen.
All season long, the GT1s have been the class that has provided the excitement. That's not the case today with Williams stretched out ahead of McGarvey, like I said, Costa, and then you can go back a little farther. You don't really get to a battle till you look at Postma in a battle for fourth overall. Lindsay doing a pretty good job of staying with that, but even that's not that competitive.
And Postma wants to get every position he can. Right now, fourth is probably not what he's looking for. He's got to get to the podium, or more likely a win for him to help his hopes for the championship, especially with McGarvey being the one he's fighting with.
Smitty, fortunately for the guys that are working through lap traffic, there doesn't seem to be a lot of clusters of cars out here. They all seem to be spread out nicely, where the prototypes and now even the GT1s can start taking them one at a time rather than having to do it in a group.
No, absolutely. It looks like everybody definitely took the driver's edge and is making sure they've got plenty of room between them and the person in front of them, so there's braking distance is nice and safe, just in case. No, just up and down the field. I'm not seeing any kind of fighting. It's just kind of, hitting your marks and clicking off laps. And we talked about in the intro about how this place can force mistakes. So maybe these guys are racing the track a little bit more than they're racing each other.
I thought I had saw a battle starting to brew between Lionel Duprat and Sheldon Rosenbaum, but they're starting to spread out a little bit. It was under a second. Oh, it sounds like the position actually swapped recently, so Duprat moves himself from 9th to 8th. They, however, are dealing with traffic, which could bring things back together. Although Duprat was apologizing for something, so maybe the pass wasn't the cleanest of moves.
Yeah, Rosenbaum had the car in the wall, so he's been falling back. He was running about 6 and little by little been giving up spots. I don't think the car is all that comfortable for him to negotiate right now.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything wild happening. It's looks like Duprat just got him on the front stretch about a lap ago. So not worth probably going back to look at. We do have another battle going in P5 for the prototype, Schindel and Santana. Santana leads currently, Schindel leads currently.
Yeah, Santana third in points, running back there in 6th position. I'd like to make up a couple spots here to secure that spot.
I'm surprised that it's Santana that's as far up in the points that we've seen this season. I would have expected Matt Quinn, who was looking pretty handy. Although, did Quinn swap over to the GT3s, if I'm remembering correctly? I'm not seeing him here today.
Quinn races in the prototypes. In fact, he didn't come on. That's one of the drivers we talked about, Gerard and Quinn. Neither one. Gerard didn't grid and Quinn didn't qualify, but he was here in prototypes.
Must have had some attendance issues. Quinn tends to be the one to pick up podiums when our top guys fall by the wayside. And has certainly found some pace over time. He didn't always have the best speed, but has become so consistent that his pace is just hard to knock. Meanwhile, this battle for 5th still kind of on hold. No moves from Santana quite yet. Oh! But Schindel outbreaks himself down into Tamburello, has to cut the course. Santana gets it on a silver platter.
Do you think that was from some of the pressure? We talked about how there's not a lot of battles going on, but maybe a look in the mirrors at the wrong time there for Santana.
Well, I know you were talking about it pre-race, Smitty, how you remember watching a race long ago when F1 was here between Alonso and Schumacher. I think a lot of them are going to look like that today between drivers, where the lack of real good passing zones means that you just have to really pressurize something out of the guy.
And yeah. Rosenbaum brings it in the pits. We talked about it. I think the window opened for him, so he came in the first chance he got.
Yeah, Joe, I mean, you had talked about it in the intro. It's just this place does force it to make mistakes. And if you lose that focus for a second, it does seem like you fall under pressure and possibly can lose it. And I think that's maybe where, back at the prototype fight, which is really maybe the closest battle on track, that's going to be where we might actually see a mistake.
We've noticed that Robert Tinsley is starting to drop away from Daniel Benefield. I think Daniel might have the legs today, because the gap is now 2.5 seconds.
Although I'm looking just in front, it looks like we may see some traffic coming back into play for Daniel here, possibly GT1 traffic coming up.
Up in front of him is Paul Lindsay as they work their way towards Piratella. Not sure if he's going to be able to get him. Not quite. Doesn't even try to stick his nose in. He's going to use the exit down into Aqua Minerale, and he sneaks by. Now, Bill, you're noticing the same thing that I've been noticing. It looks like the dirt is really getting carried on to some parts of the course.
Not everywhere, but certain sections of the course really, really sandy. It's especially noticeable in the last two corners as they come back onto the main straight, which is some of your faster corners there.
Which is what Benefield is coming up to right now. He's got Postma just ahead of him, waits patiently, gets himself a launch off of Lavazza, and is able to clear him. In the meantime, he continues to put cars between himself and Tinsley. Every time Tinsley could have an opportunity to close up due to traffic, he hits traffic of his own.
He was able to eat into that lead by about a half a second that time, advantage Tinsley on that last lap time. Actually 8/10 there, as you can see the last lap by. So yeah, as you say, that the traffic definitely coming into play, but it looks like Benefield being patient is paying dividends. But look at the traffic they're having to deal with now.
Yeah. Benefield coming up on Laurel Costa there.
This is going to get tense here.
That was actually teammate on teammate. I got to imagine everybody's going to play nice there for a second. That was the Blade getting around, I believe it was Postma there, teammate in GT1.
Yeah, the three classes are starting to get all mixed together, because if you go just ahead, you have there's McGuinness running in 28th in the GT3s, and right behind him is McGarvey. Now this is right ahead of Benefield, who's going to come up on two classes all at once.
There we're watching McGarvey as he works his way by that Mercedes.
That's going to hold up the show for the prototype driver. Now, Bill, you had talked about sand in the final corner. That's a tough ask unless these guys are blowing the entry. Must be going wide through here and bringing it back on the other way, or maybe wide on the second apex.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that got there, because there's not a lot of sand that they could carry on there. It might just be the reflection from the sun that's making it look like sand, but it looks like it's blowing up a lot.
No, I think that's the right call. It looks like maybe a few guys have gone wide in practice. Remember, all the dirt here has carried over from the practice and the qualifying that they had during this iRacing session. Here's where I'm really seeing it coming out of Tamburello. There's a lot of it on the exit of that final left flick.
Well, we've seen several drivers go straight through this section already, so that does make sense. And even there, as you see Tinsley coming back through, maybe he dropped a couple of wheels to the left.
Still not able to make much inroads. Holds it about 2 seconds back from Benefield.
Now Benefield is just coming up on Williams, the leader in the GT1s. He's got to get around Patrick Fleming. That's a GT3 car to get there, so it's getting a little messy now.
Joe, you were talking about Tinsley earlier about being pretty crafty and whatnot. He's crafty in the pits too. I wonder if maybe he doesn't have something up his sleeve here to eat up this now under 2 second gap.
I'm not sure. It's going to be hard for him to find clear track, but that's going to be his best hope if he wants to undercut him with pit strategy. With 36 minutes left on the clock, so these guys could definitely duck in if they wanted to at any point. Meanwhile, let's go to Brandon Postma, who actually, nope, never mind. I thought he was going to be in a battle with Sheldon Rosenbaum, but that's the wrong class.
Right on board there with David Williams, and he just makes his way around the GT1 leader. So now Williams has cleared the GT3s and the GT1s, but there's traffic all over the place now.
Sandwiched between our two prototype leaders as Tinsley waits patiently to try and get by. Going to look to the left. Meanwhile, Benefield almost gets run off the road ahead of him up into Tosa, but manages to hold it together. That was Robert Jackman. He was trying to go by around the outside. Look at the replay potentially. I think, all right, we've got it up. Yeah, I wonder if Jackman was maybe heading for the corner here. You'll see it, that Mercedes, not realizing he's going to put himself there. Gave him just enough space. It looked a lot less dramatic from that angle.
Yeah, heads up driving there from Jackman. That was a nice job by him.
look at Jackman. Maybe we can look at Dave Hill right now, currently running 21st overall. He's about to be caught by the prototype guys. Benefield gets around him.
Hill still holding on to that podium position. Remember, he inherited it earlier when, I'm trying to remember which driver it was that made a mistake and let him through. I know he was overtaken by Sklanka. Sklanka spun, gave him his spot back.
It was Jackman, actually. Jackman running in fourth after going straight for a moment. Still running fourth, but actually holding station there.
Here we see
Joe,
the Mean Beaver Racing driver. Go ahead,
Joe.
Bill.
I would say our fears were qualmed here. We came into this one after what we saw in Germany, that we were going to be looking at another messy one. Other than the incident we saw on lap 1, it's been pretty darn clean.
Yeah, I was going to say, Bill, we got it all out of the way in the first 30 seconds.
That was my exact thoughts. All the action happened at once, and then everybody calmed down a little bit. Bit of a Thanksgiving frenzy with everybody going for their food, and then everyone's too tired to fight over anything that's left.
You know, I do want to point out, too, I was looking at the points here, and I'm definitely, this is all unofficial, but judging by where John Paquin is currently, remember, driver who got involved in that early incident, the point leader in the GT3 class, he's currently running 9th and looks like he will probably end up in the realm of 9th. That's still 16 points to his name. That might be all he needs to end this thing up. So it may not be as bad as it seems for John as long as he can get to the end here.
Oh, and Tinsey has somehow managed to run down Benefield. He must have gotten advantage from some traffic. Let's stay on this, but to your point, I believe actually even if he gets those 16 points, it's going to be at least 32 because I believe those are the drop weeks for Paquin, if I'm not mistaken.
No, for sure. He'll take the 30 points. I think he's got 30 points in the pocket next. But where I'm going with that is he might be able to bank on that instead of that the 10-point.
Yeah.
Next one. So he might have a good shot.
Yeah, Smitty's got his second drop was a 10-pointer, so he won't have to cash it on that one. He'll be safe with the 16. I think Paquin's going to benefit from a small field. Fortunately, he can have that disaster and still come away with a 9th place. That might be all it takes. As we ride on board with, we're looking at Tinsey there. Tinsey has been able to run him down. Benefield now working around Paul Darling, your GT1 leader.
He's going to get sandwiched between them through Aquaman and Raleigh. Tinsey works his way around the outside, up the hill into Alta. It was down to 0.6. Now it's back up to 1.1. The yo-yo keeps swinging back and forth.
Guys, I was looking at lap times between these two top prototype drivers. Not much between them. It really does seem like it is traffic that is the big difference.
I feel a bit bad. We keep going back to this battle, but this is the exciting one.
It is the best one, yeah.
Let's step away for a moment because McGarvey, who I thought was solidly in second, must have had some trouble with traffic or something because Lauro Costa, winner at Monza, newcomer to the series, has run him down. Look at that, within half a second. Just got overtaken by Pfeiffer. Now they are clear to fight.
Lauro's a late charger. He sneaks up on you, and actually Tinsey did have an off that cost him a little bit.
He's got it up back under his second, though. But I want to keep an eye on this one for P2 and GT1.
What happened? I found it. It was on this lap. Maybe Sheldon Rosenbaum spun right in front of him, and he had to take a avoiding action to get away from it. So that's what slowed him down.
That actually might be worth watching, then.
Let's see if we have it. Rosenblum having trouble in that prototype. Hey, we got it. There you can see the car, and the car that just went by as our director just caught the tail end of it. Just went by. We'll look one more time. We'll back up a little bit farther.
Ooh.
There's the spin, and there's Rosenblum who had, or McGarvey who had to take evasive action going off into the sand.
Who was that other HPD he almost ran into, though, as Rosenbaum spun?
I think it might have been Schindel.
Okay, that looked really tight from that camera angle that we saw it in. Meanwhile, we've jumped to McGarvey.
Joe, you had brought up Costa had gotten the W at Monza. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like if you can win at Monza, maybe you can win here. This place is a little bit more twisty, but Monza got that high speed, still got some fast chicanes and some sweepers. They're kind of similar.
Well, and they're both Italian.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, that win at Monza, that's when the commentator took a little heat for missing the fuel strategy that was going on during that race.
I would like to note, I knew that saw that was happening. We just didn't get time to mention it on there.
Yeah.
Well,
anyways, enough defending ourselves.
Heat's on Costa right now. Coming to the pits here, GT1, I believe, one of the first of the GT1 drivers to make his pit stop. We had Jimbo Pfeiffer also make his stop there in the prototypes.
Pfeiffer was having a great run. He was up to about 4th, doing really well.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at Pfeiffer having a top 5 in this series, possibly more, maybe even a podium. Tinsley now down to 0.3 of a second and closing. They just lapped Sheldon Miloshin. Down into Ravazza, doesn't take a look, just stays in line, maybe looking for a good exit here out of the second apex to get himself a launch. They're about dead even off the corner, and they both come into the pits.
Joe, you were talking about a possible undercut for Tinsley earlier. Well, that's now out of the window, and they both just darted right in. There was no misdirection there. It's going to be real close right here. Does anybody fiddle with the markers right now? Does anybody change the fuel load? Does anybody do anything to try to find an advantage?
We said that Tinsley is a pretty smart cookie. I wonder, maybe he takes a 1/10 of a gallon out or so.
And Simona comes in behind him as well, so it doesn't look like we're going to have a new leader.
Well, Benefield got around him via a mistake from Tinsley, but was able to pull out a little bit from the traffic. Now I wonder who will have the advantage when they come off. It's going to be Benefield.
And only just. You have to wonder, though, if Tinsley's able to accelerate away good enough here. And nope, looks like the accordion effect is going to stretch Benefield away. Thought maybe Tinsley would have a go down into Tamburello.
What a great example of the accordion effect there, where Benefield was able to get on the gas. I mean, they were within half a car length of each other, but Benefield was able to put the foot down first, and he opens it up to about 4 or 5 car lengths.
Meanwhile, we've had a bunch of our GT1 leaders come in for their pits, and Williams is the first to be coming out. In fact, McGarvey has come in from P2 and is pitting, but where is Costa? Because Costa was with him, and Costa pitted, did he not?
Costa made a very early stop. It looks like he's not going to fare as well. He's just working his way through the final corner right now. McGarvey's well out on the track, so that could be a little bit of... McGarvey's been around for the whole season. He might have his numbers figured out a little bit better than the newcomer. Costa not running a full season.
Well, Costa won on a good fuel strategy, though, so he knows his stuff with that.
Yeah, Costa, looking there, maybe he took tires. We'll see the comparison in times. He was in there for a 40-second stop compared to McGarvey, who was in there for 20. That sounds like maybe tires.
There's a lot of corners. Well, I guess a lot of them are slower with them being chicanes, but I would think the tires wear out around a track like this in the GT1s.
Guys, while that's going on, our GT3 leader, Paul Darling, in for his stop. Bradley Haley stays out, however, and as does Dave Hill. So the lone taker right now is Paul Darling, your leader, GT3.
GT3 is known for being able to go a little bit longer than our other two classes, less fuel thirsty. Quite a few engine mapping options for these guys. There we see Jackman, who gets bumped up to 3rd with our leader pitting. And I thought that Jimbo Pfeiffer was going to be able to overtake Duprat, but Duprat heads into the pits anyways.
Let's look at 13th overall, Brandon Postma, running 3rd in the GT1s right now. He may be the biggest benefactor of the bad pit stop from Laura. We'll have to keep an eye on that. He's now running 3rd. He's got a little bit of a gap on Paul Lindsay, who also got that spot. And why that's important is because Costa as he has fresh tires, is going to try to run these guys down. Postma cannot afford to lose those points as he's chasing McGarvey. So that battle between Costa, who's a-coming, and Postma will be interesting.
As you say, Bill, McGarvey, who's actually a spot in front of him, he's already ahead of him, 5 points in the standings. And Postma needs to be making inroads.
And I think Postma's trying to do that because he took a very late braking into Villeneuve to try and lap Brett Trocine in his GT3 machine. Thankfully, Trocine saw him coming and gave him space, but boy, that was a late dive.
And we don't need to go to it, just a quick update. Jackman, the second of the GT3s to come in. Haley and Hill still staying out for another go-round.
Jim McInnes has announced he's coming into pit. This has probably been a bit of a disappointing day for Jim. With a bad start, not looking like he's very far up the road to make up for his early incident.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Jimbo, he had nowhere to go. Oh, Jimmy, he had just nowhere to go and had a Pac-Man in front of him. And, well, it was early and done there in the first 30 seconds.
But McGinnis can soothe his sorrows knowing that Talon Racing is doing so well in the team championship.
It could actually be part of his issue. He might be driving around with the cup also inside the cockpit there, just a little bit too much weight.
Well, his teammate Robert Tinsley, he was down to 3/10 and just can't seem to keep it consistent or get himself a good opportunity to make it go because it's back up to a second and a half. They're dealing with more traffic. Sheldon Rosenbaum just ahead of him, and Rosenbaum passing John Paquin.
And actually just in front of him there are two cars in front. You can kind of see another prototype up there. That's Benefield. Benefield was side by side with Paquin there, so he didn't get through there quite as well as he would have liked. You see the gap now, only 1 second between the top two prototype drivers. Look at this traffic right here. Look at the Talon driver out of the way as best he can, making sure he doesn't make any mistakes. That was McInnes, making sure he didn't hold up Tinsley at all.
Saw that familiar paint scheme in his rearview mirror there and said, "I'll get out of the way for you, buddy."
Well, he's not fighting anybody on track at the moment, so I guess he knew I got nothing to lose. Might as well help out that teammate.
Well, let's get into the head of Robert Tinsley. Yeah, he's going to win the championship, but it might be a sleepless November, December, January until this series comes back, because as soon as Benefield's getting here, Benefield is smoking him now. If Benefield can bring it home from here, that's 2 in a row. Oh, car up in front of Benefield. That's Woloshin got loose. Did a nice job of staying out of trouble, not going to cause any problems. Scared our prototype leader, though.
Looks like
he's
he
going to
caught
bring
a little
some
bit
of your sand on there, though, Bill. He's going to get more of that sand on the track.
Looks like he touched a little bit of the AstroTurf on the outside on the middle part of Aqua Minerale, and that's what sent him nearly spinning. Good catch by Lotion to not let it go all the way around. I wouldn't say that Benefield is necessarily smoking him this race, though, Bill. It's been holding under 3 seconds for pretty much the entire race. So Tinsley's keeping him in check. It's just he's not finding the opportunity. I'd almost wager that this is the competition that Tinsley's been needing up here.
I think, in all fairness to Tinsley, I think he's happy to see it. Yeah, he's the kind of guy that he's not scared to go up against somebody with talent.
Yeah, he wants a good battle up front, I'm sure.
How great this class will be next year. We bring Benefield in with Tinsley coming back and Gerard and Ulmer healthy again. Woohoo! 2017, looking forward to it.
Well, and that's something I want to point out, too. Let's remember one of the guys who was in the hunt last round at Nürburgring on a similar kind of circuit, Gerard, and he's out right now. So this might have been a little bit of a different story had we had all three of those guys in this race.
Yeah, let's follow up. We talked about winners in the GT1. How about in the prototypes? Benefield, Tinsley, Ulmer, Gerard, and Wolf. So there's 5 right there, again, off the top of my head.
Let's go to 15th overall. Laura Costa not happy with someone, but he is currently right on top of his competitor. He's trying to overtake. That's Paul Lindsay. And he's got traffic in the way, takes the apex away from him, can't get by through Vavazza. And that gap that was at 0.3 at one moment is now already stretched up to 1.1. Oof. That is not going to leave a happy driver in that cockpit.
That was extremely close with possible contact there with the GT3 driver Dave Hill. Hill on his own way to a possible podium in GT3. Didn't need to have the hot and heavy there for Costa. Costa trying to make tracks.
It's Kevin Santana between them who is trying to work his way through. He's going to overtake Lindsay now, and it's going to be back to between these two GT1 drivers.
Well, Costa racing with one eye on the track and one eye on the clock. Remember, he took tires, so he's got to make time.
He made up time there. Coming through Villeneuve, he closed the gap by a huge margin over Lindsay. I think there was a bit of a bobble from Lindsay coming out of Villeneuve, and now yet again coming out of Tosa. Look at Costa. No opportunity up into Piratella for him. Right on top of the bumper, almost touching him as we ride on board down at Aqua Minerale. How brave is he? Lindsay covers him off. Oh, comes back to the line.
Guys, remember we talked about Costa. He had that longer stop, possible tires. Well, now it looks like that's what's evident. Looks like Costa's got the extra grip, making the fight happen right here. Possible outside move.
Oh,
yeah.
There's
a little help.
Barrier.
I want to get a closer look at the rear bumper of Lindsay, because I'm telling you, these last few races, I think he's painted a target.
Well, that was a bit of a drift in Costa's defense, and Lindsay's going to yell at me in the forums, but it looked like he was taking a defensive line and then kind of drifted out.
Yeah, it looks like he drifted exactly where he was supposed to be.
Right.
I don't think there's anything to say. There's a defensive line.
Well, look at this, though. He has plenty of time to move over here. He should be over to the left right now. That's a defensive line into that.
No, I'm with you. Defensive, but that's his prerogative. That's a bump and go right there.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I think it was just a mistimed opportunity there for Costa. I don't think it was on purpose.
Yeah, I agree. Still doesn't really help Lindsay, though. I'm sure he's a little bit hot under the collar. Might have the red mist for the rest of this race.
Well, the good news for him is he didn't lose the position. He was going to lose that position eventually, so he lost it a little rougher than he would have anticipated, but
he was willing to fight for it, though.
Yeah.
That's what I give him credit for. He, despite what we assume are fresher tires for Costa, he was hold what I thought was a fair line into multiple corners there.
Well, what's our gap now from Costa to Postma? It's 2 seconds, and It's dropping in a hurry.
And that's why, just to get in the helmet of Costa, he had to go. I was talking about racing with his eye on the clock. He's faster. He's got eyes on Postma right there. He wants to make that tire change, not cost him anything.
I have to imagine he wants even more, because remember, he was right on top of McGarvey before his pit stop.
My seminar at the Dexter Castro Weekend of Tire Strategy says that in these 60-minute races in the GT3, it doesn't pay off. You have to go at least 90 for it to be close. It was a great seminar. Had a nice brunch. That's in GT3 though, so I missed the course on GT1.
That was during brunch, actually.
Yeah, that was on the brunch. Yeah.
Hey guys, we're actually just getting ready to come up on some of the GT3 guys, some of the traffic as we're watching Costa and company come through here. Just actually getting around some of those guys now. I just want to get a quick update. The cycle has gone through for pit stops in GT3. We are back to Darling in the lead, followed by Haley, followed by Hill, even after those close quarters with Costa. So back to where we were prior to those stops is now status quo: Darling, Haley, Hill, Jackman in the GT3s.
And that blue flash scything through those GT3s was Tinsey, who really was just waiting for no man to try and hold on to the back of Benefield. I was watching that gap. It has come down back to a second once more. I think Robert's got the bit between his teeth.
15 minutes to play. Maybe it's go time.
Oh, I'm sure it's go time. We're hearing something might happen to Jackman. Oh! And this is the same spot we saw him have problems earlier in the race coming out of Tosa. And it's exactly the same as what we saw earlier. Look at this. Gets on the gas. The rear end wants to swap.
Wants to swap. I think he might have gotten a little bit, maybe gotten that right rear on the green stuff. It's a little bit too wide for Jackman there.
Well, he's able to continue on. There's only 15 minutes left to go, and the car doesn't look like it's handling too bad, so at least he can bring it to the checkers as long as he doesn't make any more major mistakes. All right. Postma and Costa has already swapped places. We missed the pass. Wonder if that happened down in a Tamburello this time? Yes, it did. On the front stretch. Costa got a good run, pulled the draft, and slipstreamed his way on by.
So now does he have any chance to get to McGarvey? That's 13 seconds and 14 minutes. That's going to be a tough ask.
Well, let's look at the lap times. Costa, 41, 40, 40, 40. And McGarvey also doing 40s.
Guys, right now, if we can get to it, we're looking at right now, P1 has just gotten real interesting. We're looking at the battle. It's nose to tail. First and second, Benefield and Tinsey. Why? Because the traffic that's hardest to get through? Yeah, same class, Protos. That's what's happening right now. Look at these guys now. Nothing between them here. 14 minutes to play.
Ooh, and Benefield is being held up just a little bit by McGarvey through Ravazza. Tinsey able to get right up on the rear spoiler of that other prototype, trying to pull the draft from the GT1, get everything he can. I think he's closing in. This might be the best chance for Robert Tinsey. They're coming down to Tamburello. Benefield takes an offensive line. Tinsey going to the outside, gives him just enough space.
Oh!
Benefield goes off track. Tinsey trying to bring it back. Benefield's going to have to cut the course.
Benefield just barely scraped the wall. I don't think any damage there.
Look at the job that Benefield does. We can see keeping the car off the wall, like Smitty said, as he puts it through the sand.
Look at, he's wrecked. He's game over right there, and just a little doink, barely anything.
Well, it is not over yet because he's still on top of him. There's some talk between the drivers. Thankfully, doesn't sound like they're angry.
I think I heard Benefield say, "I came over on you." So,
I would tend to agree by what we just saw right there.
Let's go back live. They were almost going to go too wide down into Aquaman or Raleigh. They're having to sneak by the car of Steve McGarvey, who gets out of the way. They passed him once, had to pass him again because they both went off.
Guys, if this is a showcase of what we may see next year, wow, can't wait.
Ooh, and a big bobble coming from Daniel Benefield out of Alta. That cost him a ton of time.
Joe, do you remember 3 or 4 races ago when we had John Ulmer sitting in our booth with us talking about getting the draft off of the slower class car? That's exactly what Tinsey did there when he pulled in behind that GT1.
I do remember that exact thing mentioned. That's why I mentioned it as he was doing it. We said that Tinsey's a savvy driver. He knows how to pull every little tenth out of the cars around him, out of the track. He's finally got it back after he lost the lead earlier on in the race due to traffic, and he used it to get his way back into P1. I don't think Benefield is that damaged, if at all. He's holding on to the back of Tinsey.
No, guys, that was one of the best pieces of driving that we've seen all season right there to keep that thing off the wall.
Car was 90 degrees in the sand, yeah.
I wondered if it would come to car contact. It's so hard to get close coming into the braking for Tamburello with it being curved. Thankfully, these two guys managed to keep it going without anybody ruining their day. Meanwhile, Daniel Benefield starting to close. Oh, no! Both cars off! One into the wall, Tinsey hits. Benefield manages to keep it off there. He's trying to come back, just manages to sneak by. Tinsey not able to get going. Benefield is your leader now.
Massive damage for Tinsey. He nosed it in. Could that be your
Alex
sand
Simone
suit?
gets on the radio, says he's coming. Keep making those mistakes. Look at the replay.
It's like there was fluid or something on the track. It's unbelievable.
Smitty, I don't know, this target fixation maybe on Benefield's part, maybe just following the Tinsey's car wherever it went.
You can't script it.
The exact same corner.
I feel a little like Darrell Waltrip. Have you ever? No, I never.
We actually talked about it, just the few of us here beforehand, about how that's a tricky corner to get right. Our director actually saying that to get it right, it's not the easiest thing on the planet. Well, these guys were getting it right for 50 minutes. They decided to throw it away there with 10 to go.
Oh, and Tinsley's damage is bad enough. He's actually having to come into the pits. I'm guessing he's going to get his spare car. 10 to go. This is going to set him back significantly. Bump Alex Simonik up into second. And Benefield is well clear by a whole 30 seconds, about 28 to be exact, over Simonik. I don't think he's going to be under threat. Meanwhile, Tinsley loses yet another position as he gets his spare. Jimbo Pfeiffer onto the podium.
Those guys had such a big lead. They were able to have that 2 issues and still not lose a position, or at least for Benefield.
When Schindele's made it around as well. We'll see how long that's lasting, because I think the blade is going to be in full force right here up the inside. No.
I was going to say, I don't think this is going to last very long. He thought better of it. Knows that he can't lose a second car now that he's used his spare. But with that thing hole, you're going to see a charging Robert Tinsley as he tries to find a way past Mark Schindele for that 4th position.
I got a feel for Mark. He's just back there minding his own business. All of a sudden, he's got Tinsley with fresh rubber and a bad attitude behind him.
I mean, Smitty, if you're Schindele, do you even fight this? You got 8 minutes. It's worth trying to get a 4th.
Yeah, baby, come on, TV time. Let's do this. I love it. No, see what happens going down here to this corner. What's he going to do? Yeah,
he's holding
buddy,
him off right now.
Off. Rock on. Hit it, buddy.
And he gets a decent run coming out of Alta. Is he going to be able to try and outbreak him into Ravata? I think he's going to look for it. Schindele goes defensive. Very defensive.
That's what I'm talking about, Marky boy.
Oh, this is a true racer we got here. This is not going to help Robert Tinsley at all.
Yeah, but Schindele's looking at his mirror going, I don't care if it's Tinsley or Tinsley. I'm holding on to this bad boy right here.
Oh, once again, trying to make his car as wide as possible. Tinsley's been in this spot before, around the outside, but he's got lap traffic in the way, and once again, he's denied.
Oh, that was Rosenbaum. Great job, a racecraft from Schindele. Playing chess.
Schindele's like, throw the white. Throw the white. It's unfortunately 7 minutes to play here for Schindele.
Now they come up on Bradley Haley. How about a great run from Haley, running second in the GT2s? Haven't talked much, or GT3s. Haven't talked much about him.
Schindele playing the Vitaly Petrov here today at Imola. And once again, with lap traffic kind of getting in the way, we still see Robert Tinsley not able to overtake. Such is the difficulty to try and make a pass. He closes in through Aqua Minerale, tries to get himself a run, and starts to lose ground again up into Alta. I almost think Schindele could hold on to this 4th.
Well, let's give credit where credit's due. I mean, yeah, this place is a little bit tough to pass through. A bit of a run here from Tinsley coming out of the chicane. But he's doing a heck of a job. He's not putting the car wrong. He's doing well. It's up to Tinsley to find a way through.
Oh, but he holds the outside this time. And off track for Mark Schindele. Goes a little bit wide. Tinsley comes through, and he's finally got the spot. A mistake from Schindele goes up the ghost.
Did you see the pressure coming from Tinsley? There was a full lock up there from Tinsley. He was going in deep. Schindele went a little bit deeper, ended up being too deep.
I got something else here, a little bit of drama. Remember when I said the gap between McGarvey and Costa was 13 seconds with 13 minutes to go? Well, now it's 6 seconds with 6 minutes to go. So Costa making a run.
Oof, it's going to be extremely tight. Last laps for Costa is a 39.5, 40.2, 40 flat. McGarvey's 41.5, 40.6, 40.8, very consistently faster than Steven. And again, both drivers surrounding McGarvey are not fighting for a championship. These guys just want every position possible. How hard does McGarvey fight since he is ahead of his championship rival at the moment?
Well, we saw Costa. We saw Costa trying to work through traffic. The contact earlier there with Lindsay, I believe it was, and yeah, you don't want that to happen. If you're McGarvey, you can't afford for that to happen. Especially with his rival Postma Just one spot behind Costa.
Tinsley may yet get Jimbo Pfeiffer too. He's less than 6 seconds back from the double lot. Let's give credit to our other podium finishers. Well, potential podium finishers. Alex Simonik in second has won a relatively quiet race, other than being run off track before turn 1 and having to get out of it. And Jimbo Pfeiffer, who made a challenge around the outside for third in that first corner, has otherwise just been kind of plodding along and has inherited that podium position. He's trying to bring it home before he runs out of time.
And some love to David Williams as well. 22 seconds, our leader in GT1. Been quite a kind of a quiet race for David, although I'm sure he would disagree, as I'm sure he had lap traffic to work around, which is always excited. But
and I don't want to guarantee him this win quite yet. I don't want to curse the guy, because he's been running well, but he still has these 4 minutes left, and he's got to keep it pointed forward and deal with what little traffic is left.
I'll tell you what, old David, he runs the Pack Majors, a champion a year ago in that series. He's found some new ways, though. He's found some new ways of not getting her done. It's not, a lot of times not his own fault. So let's cross our fingers for the old boy.
Well, John Ulmer has made it a hard act to follow, but yeah, Williams does find unique ways to have disaster.
In fact, dealing with traffic right here, we're seeing it as he works his way past Paquin and on top of Mark Wilson, looking to work his way through, but decides to play nice with just a few minutes left on the clock. Sometimes Lady Luck just does not want to look your way. It's been that way for David Williams, both in the Pack Majors and in Autobahn this year. And how about Paul Darling, though? Just could not get a win the first half of the season. He finally broke the duck at Coda. And at the end of the season, it's finally been swinging his way. A little bit of luck, a little bit of good driving. There have been tracks where he's had genuine pace over John Paquin, believe it or not. Not often do we see a driver who can outgun him, but Pac-Man has been showing cracks in his armor.
Remember we talked about Darling out of the gate this season having issues with the driver, the car change. He was a roof driver, and when the series went away from that, he was definitely on the back foot. Well, I think he's figured out the Audi. In fact, he's one of the only to figure out the Audi, leading away here.
Only other Audi today is Brett Trocine. Otherwise, it's all Mercedes out there. One of the more popular cars, with it being very stable. A lot like the BMW, which has also left this series.
Guys, contact with Haley. I wonder if we can get it. I think it might have been Haley and Pac-Man.
Oh, you're right. Was this for position?
Shouldn't have been. No. Haley was second. Pac-Man was a lap down.
Haley lost control coming out of Tosa. Here we're going to see on the replay, rear starts to come around. Good on both drivers for not having that end up worse.
And excuse me, that was actually Sockrider.
Sockrider and Haley,
Same paint scheme, though. Apologies.
Let's watch on board from Sockrider. We've got a little bit of time left. After this, we'll come back to our leaders. Boy, this has got to be scary. This always worries me coming out of these corners. Especially especially when I saw those prototypes coming out of Aqua Minerale. They'd always come to the right side of cars, and I keep thinking, one of these days, a guy is going to lose traction on the rear, and it's going to take out our prototype leader.
Late in the race, low on the grip level there, and doesn't take much.
All right. I believe Daniel Benefield is going to take the white flag with a 32-second lead. Unless he makes a dire mistake, this is going to be his win to lose.
And that is the best news that Jimbo Pfeiffer could have heard, because Tinsey is a coming. That gap is now 1.3.
He might still get him.
No, he's not far behind, mate. He's not far behind at all.
He's got a lap and a half to get him, and he's charging.
Whoa, look at the curve. You see how much curve Tinsey used? He's using everything right now to get back on the podium.
Let's keep an eye on this. I'll keep half an eye on Daniel Benefield and let us know when he is coming to the line. But this is the battle I want to watch. closing on him yet still. Now it's under a second as they come down the front stretch. He's going to get a whiff of the draft to help him close in. A little bit of traffic holding up Jimbo Pfeiffer. That's Lauro Costa. Just giving him the alternate line. Gives him the inside, but stays out of the way.
Guys, we don't need to go to it, but Benefield almost got in the back of a lap, or almost again.
That's Sock Rider, I think.
Yeah, I wonder if Sock Rider might have damage.
I wouldn't be surprised. Oh, and something happened to Tinsley. He's now 2 seconds back. I think he caught some traffic at the wrong time, so that might be a done deal, and Jimbo Pfeiffer might be our final podium finisher. However, top of the podium is going to be Daniel Benefield as he comes to the line and takes 2 for 2 in the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge. Lindsay stopped on track. Oh, he's finishing a lap down. Meanwhile, let's go to David Williams. It's been a long time coming for the Marine. He's held tough, he's fought hard, and he takes the win at Imola. Meanwhile, has Paul Darling finished behind the leaders, actually? Did we miss that? Or has he got one more lap to go here?
He's out on the back half of the track right now.
No, I think Darling's finished, actually.
And yep, I'm showing him as coming across, doing his pace lap right now, Joe. So there's your winner.
Well, it looks pretty certain because he had quite a gap over Bradley Haley. It's currently at about 9 seconds, and it does look like those guys are still racing. So I think Darling has yet to finish his lap. He's got just 2 more corners to go here. Unfortunately, it's looking like too little too late for Paul, who has put in a valiant effort. And as he comes around Ravazza, give another win to Paul Darling, who's at least going to try to make it a tight fight here at the end of the season. Paul Darling takes the win at Imola. Off screen, I heard a little bit of talk from Tinsley. It sounds like he got a slowdown that caused him to lose touch with Jimbo, maybe cost him the podium. We're going to find out after the race if we can get some of these guys to talk to, but in the meantime, stick around because we've got post-race interviews with our winners as well as the unofficial results, and on screen we're going to have the upcoming broadcast here on the Global Sim Racing channel, so don't go away. Welcome back to Imola here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We just watched the penultimate round of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sportscar Challenge. This is definitely one of the better races we've ever seen from the series. It had a bit of everything, and boy, a lot of surprises I don't think any of us saw coming. In the end, it's his second race in the series. It's his second win. Daniel Benefield started in second and finished in first. What a run. This guy is shaking up the order, giving Tinsley a run for his money. Alex Simonik, boy, great run from him as well on the podium in second place. And Jimbo Pfeiffer just held on to it. It was 2/10 between himself and Tinsley for third and fourth. Then in fifth, it is Mark Schindel, finishing a little ways back from them. Kevin Santana, a lap down from our leaders in sixth position. Mark Wilson came home in seventh, followed by Lionel DePratt in eighth. And then in ninth, and the last of our prototype cars running at the end of the race, Bill, it's Sheldon Rosenbaum.
And then we get to 10th overall, is coming home with his first victory of his career in this series, David Williams. Right behind him, Stephen McGarvey. That's going to help Stephen in the points because he finishes 2 spots up on Brandon Postma, who finished in fourth. Between them was Laurel Costa, the third place finisher. Leif Peterson and David Sockrider go 5th and 6th in class. Paul Lindsay and Christopher Sherburne rounded out for the GT1s. Then we get down to Smitty for your winner in GT3s.
GT3 winner, Paul Darling. That's 2 in a row for him. Oh, Paul Darling. Oh, my darling, as Soup would call him. 18th overall. Gets the W here tonight. Bradley Haley's second in class in the GT3s, 19th overall. Dave Hill bringing it home for another podium run. Great job by him. 20th overall podium job here in GT3. We're going Robert Jackman next up in line, 21st and 4th in GT3s. Round out the top 5 of GT3. 22nd overall, Patrick Fleming. And then going another lap down to those guys, Brett Trozine in 23rd. We talked about it earlier. We saw at the beginning the pandemonium that happened from the start. The point leader and probable champion as unofficial, John Pac-Man Pakeman. He's in 24th overall. Jim McInnes, 25th. Sheldon Woloshin, 26th. All GT3 runners. Mark Kodrowski, early stop for him in prototype, 27th. Robert Sklenka in 28th. The last of our starters in this race, Joe.
So a number of DNSs that unfortunately were not able to take the grid today. However, let's talk to our prototype winner. And it sounds like actually Bill wants to talk to Daniel Benefield of the Radicals team, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'll take our winner today. Daniel, congratulations on the win. Let me walk you through your race. It was eventful. First of all, you got off in second place at the start, followed Tinsley around for a few laps, then you were able to get that pass done on the main straight.
Yeah, the pass was interesting because I knew that GT3 car was coming out, so I knew it would be 3 wide, so a little bit hair raising.
Yeah.
But thankfully got it pulled up in time for turn 1 and took the lead from there.
Yeah, you sure used up all the track to get that one done, but you weren't denied. Then comes the pit stops. You come in the lead, you come out in the lead, but you have them behind you. And then, let's first of all go to one of the best jobs of driving that I've ever seen, was when your car was 90 degrees in the sand and somehow you were able to keep it off the wall.
Yeah, I might have been watching the Brazilian Grand Prix, maybe. Might be.
That was impressive.
Yeah, I think I went out a little bit. He came in a little bit, and we sort of met in the middle. I think that's what happened with that one. So yeah.
Did you think you had a chance to save it when that car was heading towards the wall in the sand?
Well, as soon as the car was started, I was already thinking about rejoining at turn 3.
Okay. Well, then you came back on, and then apparently somebody threw some oil out on the track because you guys had a little synchronized spin.
No. Rob lost it, and I saw how much fun he was having and decided to join him. That's what that was. Now, all serious, I think it was quite obvious that for that whole race we were both pushing on the absolute limit. And he just lost it coming out of that corner, and obviously being behind him, I'm sort of semi-focusing on what he's doing, and I've seen him go, and then I've just followed him. naturally, I don't know, it's a bit of a weird situation, but I'm sure it was quite funny for everyone else.
Yeah, it was interesting, and you brought it home for the win. So let's go ahead and look ahead now to what's coming up in 2017. The fans are excited to have you in here, and I think the commentators are as well, and I think a lot of the drivers and the prototypes as well. What are the chances of you coming back running full-time 2017? Is that something maybe you could do?
Honestly, I want to, providing HPD is still here. I'll want to, but it's going to have to depend on what's happening with uni and all that.
Got it.
So I mean, if everything works out right, start of next year, then yeah, I should be here. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Well, I would think as long as the power structure stays the same in the series, that it's a pretty good bet that the prototype will be back again. The HPD will be back. So I know that I'm looking forward to it. I know my fellow commentators looking forward to the fans and the rest of the drivers as well. So congratulations on the win today, and we'll see you at Le Mans.
Thanks, guys.
Daniel Benefield, your winner in prototypes today, Joe.
As we mentioned earlier, he is 2 for 2, so looking very handy if he's able to work it out for next season. Let's go to our GT1 winner, and Smitty is going to be talking to him, even though he usually covers the GT3s. We had a special request.
That's right, we do have a special request. I want to talk to your own boy here. Nice job, old David Williams. Get yourself a W, brother.
Yeah, no, imagine that, man. Finally had a race that something didn't break on me.
Something didn't break, and I'll tell you what, the front of that car looks mighty fine. Not even a dent on her.
Yeah, I didn't even have to wreck Paul this time. It was a pretty good race.
Seriously, though, bud, it was pretty uneventful for you. From your seat, though, was it just... Well, you know what, I'll back up. No practice for you at Nürburgring didn't help you at all. You get yourself some practice for this race?
Yeah, I probably put in, I don't know, maybe 6 hours of practice in GT1, and then I spent about 2 hours last night helping out Brett Trozine in the GT3. So I've got 6 hours in the car I raced in and another 2 hours of just running laps around the track. So yeah, definitely got a lot more practice this time.
Well, man, I'll tell you what it showed. That was a heck of a nice job. Like I said, it was pretty uneventful for you. Was there ever a moment that maybe we didn't see, or was it pretty smooth sailing?
I had two uh-ohs, I guess, probably within the first 4 or 5 laps where I kind of knew my tires because I was running them pretty low so that when they came up, they'd be where I want them. But they were a little squirrely on the first couple of laps. So I had a couple of uh-oh moments at first. But other than that, man, everything went really smooth. It was actually a little too smooth, man. I was getting bored. I felt like I was in a vacuum on the track. I barely saw any cars at all.
I'll tell you what, then part of that was maybe it was pretty smooth at the beginning. Everybody was able to continue on their way, and we didn't really see any kind of big issues there in your guys' class. But for sure, huge props to you, man. Very well done. It was a long time coming.
Yeah, thanks, man. Definitely a long time coming, man. I've been feeling like this is coming pretty soon. I kept feeling like it, and hopefully I'll be able to go out at Le Mans and maybe back this up. We'll see.
For sure, and good luck to you at Le Mans. You're going to be running the full Autobahn series next year?
I'm going to try to, man. As you know, we got that Pacific Majors coming up 2017. I put together a team of 10 guys to come take your team out personally. So it depends on how much time I have to devote to that, man. But I'd like to run this league. I have fun with these guys.
For sure. Very well done, bud. Once again, David Williams, winner in GT1 tonight here, Joe.
Unfortunately, we don't have our winner in GT3. Paul Darling had to take off for other obligations. We do have second place, Bradley Haley, newcomer to the series. Let's talk to him about his race win. Brad, we didn't get to see a whole lot on air, especially I don't believe we saw any battles, but it seemed like you were keeping the pressure on Paul for most of it. You never quite fully lost touch.
Yeah, there was I made a couple errors in the beginning, and that kind of put me back about 8 or 9 seconds. And Paul was running a great race. His pace was good. I knew he was going to be fast.
Yeah, and we've seen you in the pack majors come in and make a serious impression running up at the front in a series that has a lot of talent. And same thing here. This is kind of known for having some impressive drivers. Did you expect to be this competitive coming into Autobahn?
No, I didn't. with Pacific Majors, that was a nice kind of, like I said before, get my feet wet and seeing where I stood. And then the last race, it was kind of uneventful as well, but I was able to get on the podium, and kind of same thing here. I mean, there was a lot of fireworks in the beginning. It was pretty crazy on the front straightaway there, but we kept it together, and I feel like I'm following in David's footsteps, where I'm there, I can see it, but I just can't get to it.
You're very, very close. And I think that brings to mind a question that a lot of fans and commentators want to know. Will you be back for 2017? And are you already thinking maybe championship potential?
Yeah, I would really like to. Really comfortable with the guys around me. Unfortunately, I got loose with the last couple laps and smacked into David and kind of ruined his race. Hopefully that wasn't the case, but I think so. I think I will kind of do more of the league racing. I've got a year under my belt with just regular racing on iRacing, so I think I'll stick to a league and see how competitive I can be.
All right. Well, we look forward to having you back, man. Again, congratulations. Second place today.
All right. Thanks, guys.
That was Bradley Haley, P2 in the GT3 class. One last one. We're going to talk to Dave Hill and see how his race went, because we don't get to talk to Dave a whole lot. And he did finish on the podium, a very quiet podium. Dave, it seemed like early on we saw you get passed by Sklanka and you were going to slip down the order. And next thing we know, you're just cruising along in third.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but I'll take it. Unfortunately for those guys, they had that wreck at the beginning, but I was able to get around it and continue on.
Yes, talk to us about that accident. Where were you in the midst of that?
I think I qualified fourth or something around there, back there, and I don't know. I was just going to follow those guys in. They're usually quicker than me anyway, so I thought if I could just keep on their tail feathers around the track, that it'd be good to go. And then all of a sudden there was 3 wide and then some contact and cars everywhere. And I really thought I was gonna run right into it, but I was able to manage to go around on the outside on the grass.
Yeah, it looks like you were very close and had to almost come to a standstill there at the start to try and avoid McInnes. I don't have the stats readily in front of you. Is this your first podium in GT3?
Yeah, I believe so. That's why I moseyed on over here. Plus, I wanted to see what the inside of the booth looked like.
Don't look at the stains on the floor. We're still trying to get those cleaned up. So, but again, congratulations, nicely done. Like I said, may be quiet, but I'm sure any racer will take a top 3.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, guys, and great job as always.
That was Dave Hill, who finished in P3 in the GT3s today. That concludes our interviews here at the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sportscar Challenge. We're going to close up today here at Imola. We want to thank a few people before we go. The Autobahn Motorcar Group is the official sponsor of this series, so a huge thanks to them for the multiple seasons that they've sponsored this and got it to air. And of course, thank you to John Ulmer, who does a lot of thankless work behind the scenes, especially now that he can't even get out there and race. He's still recovering. Wish him the best. Send him some postcards and maybe a few chocolates or something to help speed him up. Thanks to the software and hardware that we use for our broadcast. You can see those listed on your screen. Additional thanks to our musical contributors, Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde, whose music you can also find at the websites listed. And actually, Casey just released a song today. I think it was Trap 38 is the name of the new song, so go check that one out. Thanks to the team today, Bill, Smitty, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, along with archived races and upcoming broadcasts. We're also on Twitter at GSR Channel and Facebook at /Global Sim Racing Channel. Definitely interact with us on social media. We love to talk to you. In fact, we have a dedicated social media guy who loves to talk to people. Next race is going to be at Le Mans. That'll be the final round. It'll be Monday, December 12th. And if you're used to the normal start time, heads up, there's a special start time. It'll be at 8:15 p.m. Eastern this time. We also have upcoming races for other series on screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Not too many left here in 2016. In fact, we have a very light December, so you better get your racing viewing in if you want to continue to follow what we cover here on the Global Sim Racing channel. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.